5 a.m. in Australia, 9 p.m. in the Netherlands. Welcome, Thaisa Erwin, newly selected member of the show jumping team, going to the Paris Olympics, the Palace of Versailles. How exciting. The young lady from Armidale now about to go on the world stage. Good evening, Thaisa, your time. How are things in Holland?
Yeah, actually it was one of the rare days that it wasn't raining whilst I've been here, so it was a great day here.
Wonderful. Well, I can report to you coming from just down the road from your hometown of Armidale in Tamworth. It's wintry and a lot of Australians looking to go across to Paris for the summer. So a lot of people going your way to support you, Thaisa. So first of all, of course, congratulations on becoming a member of history. In fact, the first all-ladies team to go on the show jumping squad for the Olympic Games. And how would it be in the city of romance that we've got three lovely ladies who are going to represent Australia? Thaisa, if I've got my facts right, were you born actually in Scotland way back? Is that how the journey started?
Yeah, born in Scotland. I don't know about way back, but yeah, a bit ago. Yeah.
No, a Freudian slip. No, just slightly around the corner. Yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it? Born in Scotland, therefore maybe I would imagine capable of having a British passport. Dad's from the US and based in the Antipodes here in Australia. So in fact, I'm led to think that maybe you could even clap three passports for your journey as to whom you would ride for. But obviously, you've picked Australia, but quite a multinational background to your family.
Yeah, I definitely traveled a lot as a younger child. But never spent a lot of time in the US until I made the move there in my 20s. But
Mm.
my mom was very much Australian and brought us back to Australia I believe I was about 12 when we moved
Yeah.
to Australia. And so Australia is always home.
Mum's interesting to me. Always, for some reason, I followed the arts, but Mum was actually a professional ballet dancer, wasn't she?
She was, yes. Yeah, she danced in New York and in London and then Sydney. So she was well traveled herself and
Mm.
instilled in me the importance of art. Um,
Yes.
so wherever we went in the world, we definitely were able to see the sights of different cities and towns
Mm.
with her view and with an art view. So I definitely
Okay.
appreciate that perspective.
And without going on too much about ballet, but it's interesting. In my coaching, I actually refer to ballet having a real synergy with horse riding in the sense of the strong core and the fitness that some of these ladies have, the leading ballerinas. Am I a bit left field there, or do you agree there is a synergy between the two pastimes, if you will, that to be an absolute top rider, the discipline of having a strong core and fitness is in play in the same way that ballet, in fact, demands such things.
I think for sure in terms of balance and core strength. Um, Definitely these days, I think fitness is more and more a component of our daily routines as riders. Um, Most trainers and coaches require it, especially in the US.
Mm.
And it's definitely a big part of my routine. And I'm glad, yes, that my mom instilled that in me. And um, I think definitely ballet creates a lot of lean strength. So it's not
Yes.
bulky strength,
Mm. Mm.
which definitely has helped me personally in my fitness throughout the years.
Good. I'm glad to hear you say that because I will point to this interview to some of my students too. I do go on about it. Well, I just feel in the modern day, any advantage you can get across the person coming in next. So if you've got
Mhm.
all the same horses in terms of their abilities and so forth, then rider fitness has got to come into play. Um, Going back though, of course, we settled in Australia, and it was in the country town not too far away from Tamworth, where I am now, in Armidale. Is that where you put down your roots and began to get an interest in horses?
Well, the interest in horses started much earlier than that.
Mm.
My earliest memory was when we lived in Norway, and just we would pass the stables on the way to school. And I convinced my mum to stop in one time, and then wherever we lived in the world, um, because my mum followed her passion of ballet, she allowed me to follow my passion with horses. So my
Yeah.
little brother was cut along to many stables around the world. And when mum decided actually to move to, she's a Sydney girl, she wanted to move to Armidale because of it being a university town and
Yes.
having a good education system there and away from the beach. She didn't want us to be beach bums. So um, yeah, so Armidale, definitely am grateful that we moved there because it had such a large horse sense and
Yes.
some really good instructors. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, definitely wouldn't be where I am today without the help of a lot of people in Armidale.
Talking of instructors, I had a quick word in the ear of Gail Hunter,
Hmm.
and Gail has fond memories of being with yourself, and I think
Hmm.
she knew you pretty much as a 9-year-old child, and spent some time with the Hunters, and then with your university education. I believe you were at Newcastle University with Bachelor of Science, and
Uh,
there was two actual, wasn't there? Bachelor of Environmental Engineering and a Bachelor of Science at Newcastle. Um, so coming back to Gail in a second, what were your thoughts there? You were going to go down a particular road, but you got those great, parts of your education. Were you looking to have two strings to the bow, riding and an education? Was that the thought?
yeah, well, so I always knew that if I wanted to pursue the writing career, I needed to financially support myself with it. Um,
Mm,
I wanted to be a vet, actually, and so I did all the subjects to get into vet school, and I think
mm,
I missed out a little bit. So I started the science degree with University of New England, and I worked with quite a few vets, including David and Elsa Willis.
oh yes.
Rode with them a little bit, and then realized veterinary work gives you no time left to ride. And I
Mm,
was very good at mathematics, and my dad was an engineer. And I really, mum absolutely loved the environment. So she was part of Wires in Armidale, and
yes.
I went through a lot of droughts whilst living there. So I wanted to do something that involved the environment and the built environment around it, and how
Yes.
Australia could potentially do better at that.
Yeah.
So I got into engineering school, um, which ended up being in Newcastle. The one they had a joint degree, science engineering, but it stopped in at University of New England. So
Right.
University of Newcastle took it over. So I had to move there. Um, yeah, which again ended up being a bit of a blessing because
Yes.
yeah, I ended up obviously closer to Gail. And
Yeah.
I did keep my horses at her place for a while, and I would just catch the train back and forth to
Mm,
uni because I
mm,
could do a lot of work on the train. But then that, yeah, just got a bit hard to leave at, 5 a.m. in the morning to get to
yeah.
class. So I ended up taking my horses. I had two horses to Sean Francis, and she had
Yes.
the big covered arena, so I could ride at night there.
Mm,
And actually, yeah, I bought a little camper for a while, lived in a camper there at her place. Yeah, and then obviously met Rosie Ryan through her and just kind of got
yes.
a really good network of people around because
Mm,
of that move. Um,
terrific.
yeah, so I guess engineering also gave me a really good job. Um, my last few years of university, I got a good job, and that financially enabled me to have those two horses. And they used to give me sometimes Fridays off work if I made it up. So I was able to do 3-day horse shows and work and go to university.
So, and I suppose they're picking up on the Rosie Ryan influence and Heath. Um, Way back then, you obviously realized the value of flat work. So your
Mhm.
horses were really educated on the flat dressage wise? Was that the idea of Rosie being involved and so on?
No, she wasn't. I've never had a lesson with Rosie, with
Oh,
Sean,
okay.
because I was based at Sean. Sean and Rosie are very good friends. So
Yes.
socially, I became close with her, and we actually went and saw some theaters and things together. So
Right.
she obviously has an English background.
Yeah.
But she was motivational in her stories and what she had accomplished as a writer and
Yeah.
obviously a business person as well. So I gained from her, um, yeah, more of a motivational aspect of how to compete. And Sean, I think, just was such and still is such a support as a another horse person and a lady. And I would roll in at all early hours of the morning and late hours of the evening, and she would just keep an eye on me, make sure I was fine. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm getting a sense already then, and Gail backed up this feeling that I'm getting.
Mm,
You were always quite driven. You always had a goal.
mm,
Clearly, there's an intellect there.
mm,
You did your university degrees. You're putting together a team of people around you
mm,
who obviously give you emotional and practical support. So
mm.
tell us then, please, about the motivation to go to the US, to actually go and base yourself on the other side of the world. I know you've had a stint in Europe also, but
Mm.
um, was that a light bulb moment when you said, you know what, I've just got to, because you jumped to World Cup with horses like the Countryman here in Australia. I'm wondering, did at some point you go, I need to go overseas? If I'm going to make it top of this sport, I need to pack my bags and go.
Yeah, so I'd already been to Europe. Um, when I graduated university, I went for a stint. I believe it was 9 to 11 months. I can't remember exactly. And my
Mm,
work had given me time off to do that.
yeah.
In that time, the countryman had gone lame, so I didn't take him with me. And then I came back and had, luckily, a job to come back to, and I did that. I really enjoyed my renewable energy job at that point.
Mm,
But there was something that I wanted to know whether I was good enough at this sport. And I didn't want to be a big fish in a little pond and stay in
right.
Australia and do that. So I was either going to go figure out if I was any good
Mm,
or stay in Australia and make money.
right.
And I had never been to the US, and it was just before Christmas, just after, and Europe is pretty miserable at that time of year. And I got a job offer in Wellington, Florida to ride with Aaron Vale, who
Mm,
was quite successful, but not
indeed.
really
Mm,
world known. And I thought, oh, I'll give that a go. I mean, it's a door that opened. It was in Florida. That was, a bit of a mecca at that time of, winter
sure.
season. So that's kind of how my kind of leap into the US scene went. And it just
Mm.
kind of snowballed from there.
So, and again, there's a lot of Australians actually who are making that trip today.
Mhm.
Um, are you of the opinion that there is, I'm not going to say a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but is there light at the end of the tunnel for Australians who are dedicated, who, like, can America offer the up and coming show jumper from Australia that next level of jumping and maybe a career path also?
Um, I think if you are willing, you have to put in the job, and the job isn't necessarily a rider. Like,
Mm,
there are so many riders in the world that are good, that have ridden young horses and can sell horses. So I think you have to be willing to learn and do. I was quite good at teaching, and I
yeah.
think still am, and riding young horses and being able to put horses with people that I think
Mm,
suit each other.
Yeah.
And I only learned that by being in those different places to witness it, ask the right questions, not thinking I was a good rider, thinking that I wanted to learn more. So I think there's definitely an ability to do that there as there is here in Europe too.
Mm.
Um, I think here in Europe, you can definitely ride a lot more than you can in the US. The US system is more preparing horses to go to competition with their client, with their owner,
Right.
um, which taught me a lot. And obviously, I've created a business out of learning that. So I think if you can mix both in some way, I think Australians have a natural way of riding, naturally
Mm.
quite good. And a
Mm.
lot of us are quite hungry when we get on a horse and we can adapt different horses quite well. And that in the US, there's a market for every type of horse. It doesn't have to just be a Grand Prix horse. You know, if it's a really good, fast, careful meter 20 horse, there's a
Mm.
market for that.
Yeah,
If it's
right.
a really good, fast meter 45 horse, there's an excellent market for that. So
Mm.
if you can find those horses and develop them and have a client base, teaching clients to be competitive and safe and having fun doing it, then you
Yeah.
definitely can make a business out of it and then create the money to have a horse at the bigger level. Or those people might invest in horses for you to reach your goal. But I think you have to create it. Um,
Yeah.
by not
No,
necessarily thinking you're going to be the best rider.
no, I think what your description is so eloquent that I've got a real sense of what America can offer. I'd like to come back to America in 2 seconds, but let's just jump into Europe and talking about influences. I know the Weinbergs and
Mm.
Eric van der Vleuten has also been an influence on you. Some of the names that we hear on a world level, and of course, Michael van der Vleuten again going to another Olympics for the Netherlands team, for the Dutch team in Paris. Can you
Mm.
just give us an insight, please, into where those European trainers have focused your mind and what differences they potentially have made to your outlook and your riding?
Yeah, Helena, well, now Stallman, she's still a quite a good friend of mine.
Mm.
I still lean on her and would give her a call if I want questions or advice, or she's a very strong woman and a very
Mm.
positive person. And
Mm.
um, if you're feeling down or questionable, she's still always there. So when I was at her and her now ex-husband Peter Weinberg, it was at quite a large dealing stable near Aachen in Germany.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I did speak enough German. So I learned a lot there. And she was riding at the top at that time, and her son was also riding. And then they obviously had a training section to their stable as well.
Mm. Mm.
And Peter would drive me to some of the horse shows, and I would sit at the warm up and watch and ask some questions on the way home. So I think I learned there. I mean, I did quite a bit of grooming as well. What it took at some of those horse shows, like she did Aachen then, um, and the training behind it, the behind the scenes. I learned there. And then I went to Eric van der Vleuten and I got the chance to ride quite a lot more young horses, 4, 5, 6 year olds. And then I also got to flat his horses once they were home, and he would switch out
Mm.
and go to shows with different
Mm.
horses. And then also Michael's. And there were different types of horses because they like a lot of blood. And then I got involved in the breeding just because I had stallions also that were being
Right.
collected. Um, so I think, and I still, I saw Eric and at Rotterdam, and I think from them I learned a lot about being patient and the development of young horses and not taking things like taking mistakes as part of the process, not
Yeah.
as a bad thing. And yeah, they had a lot more blood horses, which I realized really suited me a lot more. And so I think I learned in those two stables, they were quite different, but I learned so much from both of them. Um, yeah, major
And
positive.
and if I may, they talk about riders going from Australia and becoming, Europeanized or Germanized, a bit taller in the spine, a bit more on the saddle. Would you agree that experience did in fact affect your style on a horse in any way, shape, or form, or have you always managed to just do your own thing?
Um, Probably. I mean, when I lived in Armidale, we had Edgar Lichvar would come for
Mm,
dressage lessons, and I also had dressage lessons. So I probably sat maybe a little deeper as a show jumper anyway, and maybe
mm, mm,
straighter.
mm. Yeah,
Um, in Germany, definitely I would say they're heavier at that time. I mean, this was back
mm.
in the, don't want to age myself, but like what, late 2000s, I guess, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, and the horses were definitely heavier in your hand, and they needed your support.
right.
In Holland, when I went to Eric's, it was a bit lighter style of horses. The balance was more up. So I could ride a little lighter, which naturally I did. Um,
Yeah.
in the US, I've done a lot of hunters as well, which totally changed my riding for a while because you have to lay a bit on the neck and create
Mm,
that look. Um,
mm,
so everywhere I've gone, it's taught me different things, actually. And in terms of my own style, I think I ride lighter than a lot of Europeans, but
mm.
also heavier than a lot of Americans. So somewhere in between, I would say.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's a great answer, and that was that's why I was trying to paint that picture in my mind. I think you've done it again. So you speak so well. Obviously,
thank
um,
you.
you think about what you're doing, and but they're great answers. Thank you, because and that really, for someone like myself who's really interested in the nth degree, you're describing that perfectly. So let's jump ship though, and let's go back to the US and the business that you're running there now.
Yeah,
Um, and you do have some wonderful owners, and I'm particularly thinking of Michael and Wendy Smith. And if I've got my story right, um, people actually who were invested in you, Thaisa, and actually said, where do you want to go with these horses? And you
mhm,
mentioned the Olympic Games.
mhm.
Um, is that hearsay, or is that actually a true conversation where they said, let's make this happen?
Yeah, it's a true conversation. Yeah, so
Mm,
we actually, when I was home last week, we had a little, once we officially could tell people I was on the team,
mm,
we had just in our little, I live on his farm or their farm, and
yeah,
across the road
yeah.
are really good friends. We had just a little quick get together, and he got up and spoke, and he said, we met each other, I want to say 11 years ago. And probably 5.5 years ago now, um, he was kind of his horse business was changing a little bit.
Mm,
I had just broken up with my now ex-husband, and so that
mm,
business um, kind of dissolved, I think is the right
mm,
word.
mm,
I wasn't quite sure where I was going to go next. He wasn't sure what he was doing with his horse business because his rider at the time was going to a different area.
right.
And so he asked me if I would base out of his stables. We'd been friends for quite a lot of years at this point. I'd ridden
Mm,
some young horses for him before. And so it started there, and that last kind of went for about a year, and he started riding again. And then he asked me what I wanted to do because I kind of had to get through that initial part of being a single mom, putting a new business together, figuring all of that out. And once I had done that, he and his wife sat me down and said, "What do you want to do?" And I
Mm.
said, "The reason I moved to the US was to see if I was any good and I want to go to the Olympics." He was like,
Mm.
"Well, we want to do it again." They had already been as owners before and
Yeah.
they wanted to do it again as their so he said it was like two ships that kind of aligned. And
Yeah.
luckily now, I mean, okay, touch wood, it continues for the next 2 weeks that we'll both be able to achieve our initial statement.
Mm.
So I'm glad, almost 2 years ago when he said this, that they've stuck through and we haven't sold the horses, and he's stuck to his word, and I've been able to continue with the horses and keep training them and get them to this level.
Fantastic. That is a wonderful story. Um, so congratulations to your owners and yourself again for making this team, this historic all ladies team, to go to Paris. Hyalita B, an emerald horse,
Mhm.
a mare, I believe. If I think I may have read where you described her as a mare with a fire in the belly, but also perhaps the best horse you've maybe ever ridden in terms of natural ability. I get the sense she's a feisty mare. I'm not going to be so bold as to say there's a feisty lady on top, but certainly there's a driven lady on top. I get that feeling. It seems like a proper combination. And then you also mentioned, or see, this is why it's fascinating for me. You've got that lightness of feel. It seems to me a mare like this could be a little sensitive, and she's got the right lady on top. Am I making the right picture in your assessment?
I mean, I hope so. Yeah, I think that uh w- I'd seen her before, and my Emil Hendricks here had her, and he'd given
Mm.
her to one of his riders to ride for a while, and we thought that she was just maybe a little bit questionable rideability to come to me any earlier. And
Yeah,
last summer he said, let's go and see if it's a match. And I'm lucky he did think it could be one, because definitely in the pouring rain in Germany, she and I definitely clicked even the first day. And then obviously
yeah.
I tried her, I always try it twice at least. The
Mm.
next day was even better. Um, I don't know, I guess there's something, if I hadn't have had some difficult horses in the past that have taught me so much, there's no way I
Mm.
could ride this horse now. So
Wow.
I feel like things often happen for a reason. Um, and I've maybe because I'm also a lot more patient now, being a mother, having to meet somehow midway. That a horse like her, you also have to meet midway.
Mm.
It's definitely a conversation, not a directive with her. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, and again, just to sort of work towards summing up the interview,
Mm,
um, I'm getting a real sense and purpose that here's this lady, as we mentioned earlier, born in Scotland, but really Australian through and through, based in Armidale, has made these journeys around the world, in fact, to Europe and America, has a strong business in America, sitting on this lovely mare. Again, Emerald has done such a great job as a breeding stallion. But it's not always, we're here now, we're talking about the glory of the Olympics, but really I also get the feeling a single mother running a business, moving around the world, keeping your ambitions to the forefront. Can you give us a sense of what your life drive is? I mean,
mm.
where's this going to end up, do you think? I mean, can we look forward to maybe championships in Aachen, the Worlds? And I mean, is that on your radar going forward? Let's not get past the Olympics, but you're a fascinating individual.
Oh, well, thank you.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, I'd like to think Aachen on the radar, LA
Mm.
4 years, Brisbane 8. Um, obviously a lot of things have to align, and
Mm.
um, I love producing horses, so I want to keep doing that. And
Yeah.
I like teaching. So, if I can keep helping people achieve their goals, that gives me, um, yeah, a lot of satisfaction. Um, where my drive comes from, I think probably my mom showed me so
Mm.
much drive. My dad never, he traveled the world, so she brought my brother and I up, and she never let us believe we couldn't do anything that we wanted to do.
Mm.
I think with riding, I just love horses at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I like to be an athlete. And I want to, yeah, not always be at the top. I mean, I think that's kind of unachievable, really, but I would like to try and remain in that higher level and be thought of, and try and keep becoming a better rider
Yeah.
and keep producing better horses. And if I can do that, that's my goal.
It has been a fascinating insight into Thaisa Erwin. It really has. I really enjoyed your time. I know you got the flu there. I'm clearly that's going to get rid of before opening rounds of the show jumping. But
Yeah.
I would love to just pass on. And Gail Hunter was particular in saying, make sure you send my love to Thaisa and from everybody at Australian Jumping. We're right behind you, Thaisa. You and the two girls, as you become the first ever all-female team to go to Olympic Games. Paris, just around the corner. Go well, be safe. I'm sure you'll do your very best and be the best version of yourselves. But be assured, Australia is watching and we're right behind you. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much, and love to you, Gail, and everyone else that's helped me along the way. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Thaisa Erwin.
Thank you.
There you go. How was that?
Yeah, hopefully they can understand me. I sound probably a little bit lower octave than I normally would, maybe.
Right. That's okay. It's okay. But no, seriously, I do appreciate all your time this evening. So
No worries.
thanks for making that time. You got your daughter there and so on. Things, family come first. And but no, I really, really, really wish you all the very best, and I'll be cheering you on. And yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. And let me tell you, I've got two daughters who are inspired by the likes of Edwina and yourself and Hillary. So you're doing a great job. You're
Thank
setting a
you.
bar that many people would like to follow in your footsteps. Notwithstanding, it's not easy,
Mm.
but you're doing a great job. Well done.
No, thank you. Thank you for interviewing me.
No, that's my pleasure. And hopefully the first of many.
Yes, hopefully. I would like that. If I can
Okay.
inspire more people, that would be wonderful.
Well, let's make that happen. Thank you,
Right.
Thaisa. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Good night.
Take,
Good morning.
take care. Good
Bye.
morning. You good night. Yeah.